Hi, this is Mr. Gable, and I am here to kind of give y'all an update on class and to give y'all a lesson. I am standing in Talco, Texas, in front of my now defunct old building, school building, where my dad was a teacher and principal. My mom was a teacher and principal for years, English teacher, and went to school here. Look at that thing. Look at how big that thing is. Now it's kind of falling down. But I thought this would be a fitting backdrop for, I guess, a quick lesson so that you guys can kind of understand and know what's going on. The first thing is we need to be sure that we have finished up our lesson on Camus, and we are moving on to really the persuasive argumentative essay. Now, the point of this essay is quite simple. It's that we are going to take a position and we're going to argue either for or against. And that's the essence of it. Now, in college, professors actually use 3 different terms for the persuasive argumentative essay. Persuasive, informative, argumentative, research-based essay. And that is argumentative, that is persuasive, and that's also called a position paper. Depending upon the genre and which class you're taking, that's what each professor will call it. But they're all the same essay. It's no different. You write them the exact same way. You just have to learn to code shift and learn how to understand what the professor's asking for. Now, a persuasive essay is similar to the same format that we've been doing in terms of the intro and the conclusion. The intro, again, you need a good attention grabber. You need a couple of elaborative sentences. You need a very strong thesis statement. And in your thesis statement, you want to state the position that you are taking. Now, here's the key, though. Do not break the fourth wall. Don't announce. Don't say, that's why I believe. Your name's on the paper, guys. You don't have to state anything about your opinion. In my opinion, of course it's your opinion. Your name's on the paper. You don't have to put I anywhere in there. This is a formal academic essay. We should stay in the third person. We don't want to put the you either, the we. We need to just state the position that we're taking. Therefore, Second Amendment rights should be respected. Therefore, gun control should be should be enforced more stringently, something like that. Okay, so that's kind of what we need to do. You just state your position, then you transition into your body paragraphs. Now, your body paragraphs, each one should be kind of in an order of importance of use. The way I normally do it is whatever my second strongest argument is, and I'm going to have brainstormed and written out all my arguments and probably done a little research. By the way, before I jump into this, let me give you a quick tip. When writing a persuasive paper, the absolute worst thing that I do, that I have found, and that I found really hurts students, is to go out and research the topic before you start writing the essay. Because what happens there is that you end up just regurgitating what everybody else has said, and you have no original idea, you have no original thought, you are just telling me what other people have said, which is kind of, if it's just an informative paper, that's fine, but for a persuasive, it's different. Instead, what I do is I write down all of my arguments, everything that I want to talk about. And then I rank them in order of most effective argument to me, the things that I think are most important. And I rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, however many arguments I have. Then I go out and do my research to find evidence to back up each one. Okay? Now, whenever I talk about ranking them, it's because I will have some that, my second strongest argument, that's how I'm going to start my paper. Because I'm going to save my strongest argument to close. And then I'm going to sandwich my 2 weak arguments in the middle, okay? To kind of hide them, make them shorter. That way the audience doesn't pay as much attention and they're focused on the 2 strong arguments or the 3 strong arguments that I have. And that way I'm bringing up the 4th or the 5th, but I'm not having to defend it as much. This is what lawyers do. This is what politicians do. They will quickly change the subject on an issue that they don't want to talk about because they know that that's a losing subject. So they'll change it over to something that's stronger and they try to cover it up. Okay? And that's kind of what you're doing in the persuasive paper as well. Now, I'm going to turn and y'all can look down this road. That way I'm not moving around as much. Okay? I pace whenever I talk. So there are three essential ways to argue. There is logos, L-O-G-O-S, and I have a link to a video explaining these here in Blackboard. There's logos, there's ethos, E-T-H-O-S, and then there's pathos, P-A-T-H-O-S. Now these three come to us from classic rhetoricians, and they're three standard methods of argumentation. Logos is the most used, and I think it's actually the most effective. And logos is logic. We need to use our logic to explain things. If this, then this. If that, then that. Okay? So that's critically important for you to be able to use your logos. Your ethos is your ethics. And there's really 2 points in your ethics that I think are very critical. Number one is that you have to establish yourself as a objective author. The ethics of the author is very important in that you are, yes, presenting a side, you're taking a side, but you don't want to come across as a partisan that has no representation, nothing to do with the other side. You don't want to be one of the worst things of our politicians. You instead want to be an academic. You want to have some type of objectivity to see the other side, to understand it, and to be able to argue effectively against it without being hateful, without calling names, without falling into logical fallacies that we will talk about in a later video. And then there's pathos. And pathos is one of those that it is an appeal to emotion. Pathos really goes well in sealing the deal in a persuasive paper. I usually try to end my paper with a appeal to pathos because you want to get the heartstrings involved. It's not enough to create a mental assent from your audience. You have to have an emotional assent because the emotional assent is what prompts to action. Okay? That's why whenever you see a lot of preachers or different people like that, they may have a lot of logos in the beginning of their sermon, but their conclusion always tends to involve a story. And if they can get you in your feels, then they feel like they got you. They're using that pathos because that's what prompts action. And that leads us to our conclusion, okay? So we've got the intro with the strong thesis statement, then we've got the conclusion. Now the conclusion of a persuasive argumentative paper, it's kind of like the generic one that we have in that there's a transition, then you restate your thesis statement, reworded of course very strongly, saying what side it is. Then you give elaborative sentences so you can kind of see what's going on after that. And, explain what you've talked about a little bit. The big difference though, the big thing that you need to be aware of is that right after the elaborative sentences, you need to include a call to question. Now that is a term that comes to us from Robert's Rules of Orders, and usually in high school, I think they call it a call to action, but the formal name was always called the question. And in Robert's Rules of Order, it means that after there's debate, and subject has come up, after there's debate, we need to call to an immediate vote. And that means that you get recognized by the chair, you raise your hand, you get recognized by the chair in the meeting, and you say, I call the question on the motion. That means that you jump actually some procedural things. You jump whether we close discussion, whether we have a motion to accept or whatever it is. It goes straight to a vote when you call the question. And that is what we actually need to do here. We call the question. We're asking the audience to do an action, to believe what we believe, to accept what we have accepted. That's really the call the question. And then Of course, you want to tie the bow on it. You want to put that nice pithy statement at the end to leave the audience with that good feeling that everything's been brought together. Okay? So that's your conclusion. So in a good persuasive paper, I would attempt to use all three persuasive methodologies. Logic would be my base. That's where you use evidence, and we'll talk about that in another video. And then you have your ethos, which is how your tone, okay? And I failed to mention this, but there's a second aspect of ethos, and that is that you appeal to the audience's ethics if it's known. You don't want to assume their ethic, okay? That's where a lot of people mess up. You don't want to assume anyone's ethic, but you can if it's known, okay? And what I mean by that is you appeal to their morality. But again, you may not know their morality. Don't assume everyone is just like you, okay? I'm a weird cat sometimes. Maybe my ethic isn't the same. I don't know. So, remember to appeal as objective as possible, and then finish up with a good pathos, emotional argument that prompts the reader into action, okay? So that's kind of the general overview of the persuasive argumentative position paper. I will be having another couple of short videos so that they're more digestible. I'm going to do one on logos, one on ethos, one on pathos, and then we're going to do one on organizing the essay and research, and then I'll do another one on MLA and APA. So that's kind of the plan of action as we go forward. So I appreciate you, and I thank you for watching, and we're going to get through this. Everybody stay safe. I'm out here social distancing in the middle of nowhere in a town less than 500 people. So this may be my office. I may just come up here and stand in front of the school, and this may be my office from now on. Who knows? So I hope you have a good day, and I will talk to you again soon.